Welcome to my video on graphing given a slope and a point. So in our previous lesson, we learned that slope was rise over run, or the ratio of the vertical change over the horizontal change. And we learned also that the vertical change can be positive or negative, and that the horizontal change can be positive or negative. And we also learned that if we have a horizontal line, then it has a zero slope because you can actually still ski it. It has zero slope, but it's still skiable. And then we have a vertical line, which we'll learn more about in algebra. We're not actually going to graph any on this sheet. Is undefined or no slope because there is no way you would want to ski down a vertical line. Okay, and remember when we talked about slope that if it was a positive slope, it sloped down from left to right, and if it was a if it was a positive slope, it sloped up from left to right, and if it was a negative slope, it sloped down from left to right. So let me repeat that one more time because I said that incorrectly at first. If it's a positive slope, it slopes up from left to right. And if it was a negative slope, it slopes down from left to right. So here's our steps to graphing a line when given the slope and a point. We're going to first graph the given coordinate, or we can also call it point. Write the slope as a fraction if needed. Because remember, if it's not a fraction, we have to turn it into a fraction because slope is rise over run. And we'll talk about how to turn it into a fraction when we get down here. Graph the slope starting at the given coordinate or point. And be sure to graph in both directions from the coordinate or point. Remember that dividing two negatives always makes a positive. Okay, so let's take a look at our first example. Now, we've got to remember that this is an ordered pair here, so we don't want to get that confused with slope because we don't do rise over run for an ordered pair. So write x, y. This means graph the x, then the y. So we always start at the origin when we do this, and I know I'm going to have a slope of 2. So we'll deal with the slope of 2 in just a second. So let's graph the ordered pair. We're going to go 2, 4. So there's the point 2, 4. Now it says my slope is 2, so we're going to make the rest of the line here by following a slope of 2.
Students, the library will be closed this morning during homeroom. Please do not send anyone to the library. Thank you.
Pardon that interruption. Nobody can go to the library today. So the slope is 2. Now notice I don't have a fraction, and in order to deal with slope, I need a rise and a run. Well, what number did we learn when we were multiplying and dividing fractions that we can put underneath a whole number or an integer, and it will not change its value? Good, we can put a 1 underneath. Now we've turned it to a fraction. It still has a value of 2, and now we have a rise and a run. So we're going to rise 2 and run 1 from this point. So watch, we're going to go up 2 over positive 1, up 2 over positive 1. Now I can't go any further in that direction. Now I can go the opposite way because to make a positive slope, I can go negative and negative. So watch what I do. I'm going to go down negative 2 over negative 1 because negative 2 divided by negative 1 would still be positive 2. So that still has a positive slope. Down negative 2 over negative 1. down -2 over -1, and I'm going to make as many as I can make here. Down -2 over -1, down -2 over -1, and down -2 over -1. Okay, so now we are going to connect those points. And if you notice, this one went through the origin. Okay, so the y-intercept here would be 0. It went through the origin. And if you read it like a book, it slopes up from left to right. And I had a positive slope, so I know I'm going in the correct direction. Now look at the second one here. Graph a line with a slope of -1/4 that passes through the point 4, 1. Okay, so remember, when we graph an ordered pair, we go x, then y. We don't go rise over run because this is not a slope. This is an ordered pair or a coordinate. So start at the origin. 4, 1 is right here. Now, my slope is -1/4. Now, when you're graphing, okay, you can choose where you want to put that negative. Okay, right now it's in the middle, but I'm going to choose what number I want it to go with. So I'm just going to choose the top number, and later on I'll choose the bottom number so you can see how that works too. So we have -1 over 4. So we have a rise of -1 and a run of 4. So that means I'm going to start at this point and I'm going to go down for my rise because it said -1. And now I'm going to run 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Uh-oh, I can't graph that way. That's okay. So now, since it's a negative slope, okay, I can move that negative down to the bottom. So watch, I'm just going to rewrite it as 1 over -4. So now we're going to rise +1 and over -4. We're going to rise +1 and run -4. And that's all that I can make. Okay? So what you have to remember when you have a negative slope, only one of them can be negative at a time, either the rise or the run. Okay, so I'm going to circle the y-intercept. So this crosses the y-intercept at 2. Okay, let's skip down. Well, not skip down. Let's go down to letter C. So graph a line with a slope of -3 that passes through the point -1, 5. So we have to write down x and y. That means this is an ordered pair, so I'm not going to do rise over run for the ordered pair, only for the slope. So we're going to go -1, 5. Okay, now the slope is -3, but it's a fraction. I have to have it a fraction, so I need to put a 1 underneath. Now we're going to rise -3, and we're going to run, +1. Okay, so watch. We're going to rise 1, 2, 3, rise -3, and then we're going to run +1. Rise -3 and run +1. Down -3 over +1. Down -3 over +1. Now I got to see if I can go this way. So watch, when I'm going the other way, I just have to move the negative down. So watch us. So move the negative down like that. Okay, because remember, in a negative slope, only one of them can be negative. If they're both negative, then it turns into a positive. So now I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3 and run -1. And now I have a complete line. So I'm going to use my ruler to connect the points and make sure you put arrows on both ends because these are graphs of lines. And I'm going to circle the y-intercept because that's going to be important later. And this one, once again, the y-intercept happens to be 2. Okay, our last example, graph a line with a slope of 0 that passes through the point -4, -6. Okay, so this is an ordered pair, so I'm not going to do rise over run. I'm going to go -4 and then -6 right here. Now, with slope of 0, if you know that you can ski down that, then you know, if you can ski a 0 slope, then you know it's going to be a flat line. So some of you will just end up memorizing that, and you'll be good to go. Okay, but if you don't memorize it, let me show you what you can do. So we have a 0 slope, we turn it into a fraction. So the top number is rise, my bottom number is my run. Okay, so now I can rise 0 and run 1 right here. So this will tell you, oh, they're right next to each other. This is going to make a horizontal line. Okay. Now remember, when you have a, oh, hold on. Oops. And remember, since this is not negative slope, I could do 2 negatives, okay? I could, well, 0 can't be negative, but I could make that -1, and then I could run this way and get all the lines. But I know it's going to make a horizontal line because it has a 0 slope. And in a 0 slope, all my y values repeat. So look, -3, -6, -2, -6, -1, -6, all my y values repeat. Okay, now I want to go back real quick because I should have said this when I did the first one. When we did 2 over 1, okay, I didn't show you this, but we did talk about it. If you have a positive slope, you can also make them both negative. And that's how I ended up going the other direction when we did that. So make sure after you make your graph that you read it like a book from left to right. If it slopes up, it's positive. You know you did it correctly. If you have a positive slope and your line is sloping up, if you have a negative slope, you know your line should be sloping down. Okay, that concludes our notes on graph given a slope and a point. I hope you have a great day.